Hello and welcome back to a new episode of Ramblers Rising, our show where we talk about the world of Red Rising, go over chapters, and just kind of ramble. I'm your host, Richard.
And I'm your other host, Aaron. Today we're going to be going over chapters 26 through 29 of Red Rising. We're getting into some interesting parts here. Richard, how are you doing?
I am fan-fucking-tastic, as per usual. How are you doing?
I'm not doing too bad. Last night I finished Vinland Saga Season 2,
Oh my god.
and
And how was it?
it was pretty fantastic. I can't lie. It was a really good ending.
Yeah, we're gonna move you on into some crazier stuff now. Don't worry.
I don't know about all that.
You're watching Attack on Titan. You don't have a choice, all right?
I don't know about all that. Listen,
Oh my
Vinland Saga
god.
was very good. But I can't say that I'm the biggest anime fan still. I don't know if I'm drinking the Kool-Aid yet.
I get that, but you got to taste now. Drink the Kool-Aid by the jug, or whatever they say in that one "Bring Me the Horizon" song.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, trust me on this one. Trust me on this one. Attack on Titan, very peak, and I think Chase has watched it, and I think you just need to watch it, bro.
I watched season 1 when I was in like middle school.
Well, you should recap it, and then watch season 2, and then watch season 3, and then guess what? Watch season 4.
Yeah, that's
Such a
true. Richard, what have you been watching, playing, doing lately?
I haven't been watching anything new, unfortunately. That's my problem. I'm currently actually rewatching Hunter x Hunter and Attack on Titan like side by side because I'm a little bit insane.
Hmm.
But I have been chugging through the Mistborn series. I'm on book 3, and then once I finish book 3 of Mistborn, I can go back to the Stormlight Archive and read book 4 before book 5 comes out in like 2 weeks.
Sounds like you're getting caught up. I was talking to Chase this morning. He said that he picked up Red Rising and then proceeded to not read it last night. So
Oh
he
my
still won't
god.
be joining us for a hot minute.
I think he just needs to do the audiobook at this point because like you can kind of do that while you're doing other stuff.
Yeah.
And also the narrator is peak.
I mean, he and I have our Thanksgiving break from college coming up next week, actually. So I'll be home. You and I will get a chance to hang out. Maybe Chase will take Red Rising home to Cali with him, and
Yeah.
he'll give that a read. Maybe, I don't know.
He's gonna text in the chat and say, "Guys, I forgot to bring the book home."
Probably. I don't even know if he's planning on bringing it home with him.
Probably not.
But yeah,
Scumbag.
next week I actually no, because we're a week ahead on recordings, so we should still have an episode out next week. I won't be able to record because I'll be traveling,
Yeah.
but we do record a week ahead, so I don't think that our schedule of releases should be affected by that.
Yeah, no, we're just gonna have to record the next episode and then edit it really, really fast.
Yeah, we'll get ahead on that at some point, probably the week after I get back, and then we'll be back to our like 1 week ahead of time on the recordings and everything there. So it shouldn't be too affected by my travel plans. And yeah, we have a lot to get through today. Should we jump right in?
We should jump right in with chapter 26, Mustang, my beloved.
So, chapter 26 starts with us learning that Cassius is very much a shell of his former self with no pride or dignity left. Last chapter we saw him suffer some pretty awful humiliation and beating,
And
and
he
it's
got
just,
pissed on.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was kind of lumping that in with the humiliation part. I wasn't going to say it, but you said it for me. Uh,
It's mentioned multiple times throughout these chapters, so we got to make sure. Got to make sure that people know, Aaron. Come on.
yeah, got to make sure they know. But Cassius is also taken to calling Darrow his brother. Um, that's a little awkward.
I think it's goofy. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. They're just really good friends and there's no secrets between them, so why wouldn't they call each other brothers, right?
Yeah, they're very close. They are like brothers. I mean, Darrow has never done anything that Cassius would be upset or angry about. What did he?
No, not that I can think of. It's not a major plot point.
No, not at all. Um, Richard, What do you think about the relationship between Cassius and Darrow at this point in the story? Like,
So I got my comments. It's very fucked up. It's
yeah,
awful. However, their relationship later in the books, the bromance, oh my god. Love it. But yeah, this is sad. It's disgusting. I really don't like Darrow in this part of the book. Like he's kind of a bastard about it. Especially given what happens in like two chapters. He's kind of crazy with it.
yeah. I also think that it's kind of fucked up that he's getting so close with Cassius, but I don't know. Listeners, if you have any thoughts on the morals of Darrow kind of getting close with Cassius after doing what he did, murdering his brother, please write in and let us know because this is something that I think is a very complex issue, and we would love to get your thoughts on it.
It only gets worse too, of course.
It only gets worse. That's with everything in this series of books. It just gets worse.
It really does. Even like characters' deaths, like after the death, something crazier will happen, and it just makes that hit so much harder and makes it sadder. Like it's crazy.
Yeah. And this is where they start to plot to get Quinn back before Titus does his horrific, awful, nasty, monstrous shit. Yeah, they're trying to get her back before anything too terrible can happen.
While they're doing this, they're also like they're scouting. They want to find other castles because they've only run into Ceres, but Ceres is kind of they've taken to just staying inside their castle for now after Titus was being a bastard. I really don't have much more to say on Titus. He's awful. He does not redeem himself.
No, he certainly doesn't. I feel like Titus is one character that we can just write off as being just pure asshole villain mode. Like there's no redemption for him at this point.
Yeah. But they do get to meet one of my favorite characters, and I say that about everyone, but she's in the top 5, like legitimately. They meet Mustang, and we've already met Mustang a few times. She's the one who laughed at Darrow when he fell off the horse, and she was humming Eo's song in the locker rooms. Like, we love Mustang.
Yeah.
And she, in one interaction with Cassius, because he's kind of stupid, figures out that they've raided Ceres, but they have no crops and that they have no real weaponry, and also that they're from House Mars in
Yeah.
about a minute. I love Mustang. She's so smart.
She is. She's really smart, very perceptive. She's really a great character to have that sort of intellect that I feel a lot of these golds don't have. I mean, they all are of exceptional intellect for the most part because they kind of have to be to get where they are. But Mustang really is leagues ahead of the rest of them in her mind and her abilities in that way. Not only that, but she's also very physically capable as well.
Yes, and to top it all off, instead of being like most of the really smart golds where she's just capable of that like cold hard logic, she's also a very caring, compassionate person. Not to say that she doesn't have her moments where she just lops off people's heads, but it's typically justified.
Yeah, Mustang definitely has that compassion, and I think that we got a little bit of a hint at that aspect of her character when we saw her humming the song at
Yeah.
a few chapters ago. Like that's it gives a little bit of insight that maybe she has some empathy for the Reds.
Yeah, maybe she does. Who could tell, honestly?
Yeah, who could say? But Darrow and her, they once again have some flirty exchanges like they did back in the locker room, and he finds out that she was actually a higher draft pick than he was, which places her in the top 10. Not surprising after everything we just said about her that she was in the top 10.
Yeah. Like, I know I glaze a lot, but I'm not even glazing with Mustang. It's crazy.
No, it's just pure skill. Like she really is she's everything. Like she's just really such a talented character.
True, true.
Yeah.
I love Mustang.
And they trick her, they knock her off her horse. As her army comes, they find out that she is from House Minerva, which really is so fitting that Mustang is from House Minerva because she very much has those aspects of wisdom and warfare that is associated with Minerva slash oh god, what's her Greek name?
Athena?
Minerva? Athena,
Athena?
thank you. Yes.
Oh my
Yeah.
god, bro.
I know.
Bro, what the hell?
That was
Are
a
you
brain
ready for
fart
Percy
moment.
Jackson? Holy shit.
I listen, I'm a big Percy Jackson fan, but I had a moment right there.
Yeah, yeah, I could tell.
Yeah.
Um, this is where Cassius and Darrow decide, fuck it, we're gonna dive into a lake so that we don't get captured. And they just tread water in the center for quite a long time.
Roke, the warrior poet, lights a beacon. Darrow and Cassius act as if it's their castle, and Mustang and her troops leave to attack, leaving a few to guard. Darrow and Cassius
It is, in fact, their castle. Roke lit a beacon inside Titus's castle to get her troops to attack it and take it for them.
Roke lights the beacon, and Cassius and Darrow protect the castle. Mustang and her troops leave to attack, with only a few being left to guard Cassius and Darrow. So this is a big sort of fight scene in this chapter, which we're starting to really ramp up on the violence and the attacks between the different tribes.
Kind of, yeah. While Cassius and Darrow are stuck fucking treading water in the middle of the lake, they hear just something howl in the distance, and Darrow knows it's not a wolf because it doesn't sound quite right. And the remaining raiders that are there to like guard them and kill them if they or not kill them, but enslave them if they leave, they all scream one by one. They're taken down, and the motherfucking Goblin of Mars saves Darrow and Cassius. Goddamn Severo.
Yep. Severo wearing his wolf pelt, so even though not a real wolf, kind of running up on him, looking like one, howling, and I don't know. I think that this idea of this little guy who's just completely feral in battle is so funny.
Aaron, as a short king, do you
Wow.
relate to Severo? I'm sorry. Do you relate to Severo?
Um, well, I do enjoy regularly bathing and
Okay, okay. Not that part. Obviously, obviously not that part.
well, you see, I don't really other than the fact that we're both short, which I'm sure Goblin as a fucking gold is probably still taller than me anyways. He's a little feral, a little crazy, but I guess we're a short king solidarity.
Yeah, right. Me personally, I relate to Cassius. I'm just like him, for real.
Yeah, 7 feet
Except I don't
tall,
get. Yeah, I don't get pissed on though.
gold hair.
Nah, I don't
You
have gold
really
hair,
had,
but
you
I
had to
got the
add that one
curls.
in, didn't you?
I had to make sure that that was like on record. Yeah, but I
Yeah,
do got
just to
the
clarify.
curly hair, and my honor remains like my
Yep,
goat.
yep. And Severo, this is where he submits to to Darrow as his leader, and we find out that he stole the House Mars standard and hid it, and now they're planning on taking the Minerva standard. So Severo really came in clutch with this one, and he has this loyalty to Darrow. It doesn't really come out of nowhere. We kind of see that Severo's had this respect for Darrow building for a little while, and now he's really decided that this is the person that he's going to follow.
Yeah, and he really once he commits, Severo really commits. I mean, I think it was 4 raiders that were left, and he took them on. They have like stun pikes, which are I think like a taser spear.
Yeah,
Like they've got all sorts of stuff like that, and he's got 2 knives that he talks to. He talks to his knives, and the motherfucker just not killed them, but severely injured them. And then Darrow asked him if he kills them, and he goes, "I mean, I didn't, but I can if you want me to." Crazy.
yeah, he's very much like, you tell me jump, I'll say how high. He's so loyal to Darrow, which kind of goes back to his whole wolf slash dog imagery where he's got that like loyalty to him. I don't know. I feel like that's an intentional line that they drew.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think it's
So
done really well, for sure.
I agree. I think so too. But yeah, Cassius and Darrow, they break into the Minerva Castle with the password that Severo overheard once again. Severo coming in clutch. And we find out that Mustang's real name is Virginia.
Very important Mustang's name and lineage, but we'll get there in a few chapters, probably.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think.
for sure. I think
Yeah.
that'll be next episode, right?
I think so, but I think that there's a lot next episode. I think it's the end of this part, which ends with some stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. But we'll see. We'll get there.
we will for sure. Cassius, he starts some fires, and Darrow breaks into the war room while they're all distracted with that. And as they're discovered, they yell about there being dozens of attackers to confuse the Minervans, and they happen to kidnap the cook.
Their whole thing is literally just cause chaos. So Cassius is starting fires all over the fucking place. Darrow breaks into the war room, like, learns as much as he can about them and their troops. Like, he learns that this guy Pax is a fucking monster, and Pax is the same size as an obsidian. He is huge. I love Pax though.
Yeah, Pax. I always read Pax as like good Titus, or like slightly better Titus. I don't want to call Pax good, but
Yeah,
maybe a little bit more on the neutral side. Titus without the atrocities.
yeah, like still a murderer. Well, still would be a murderer, I guess. He hasn't really killed anyone, but like the way that I read him, and mainly because of the audiobook, he's just got like this big booming voice, and he's kind of goofy with it. I don't know.
I know. I always read him as this like gentle giant character, even though he's not gentle
Yeah.
whatsoever.
Well, no, that's fair though. Like outside of combat, he is a gentle giant.
Yeah, I mean, his name is literally Latin for peace,
Yes, it is actually.
which I think is kind of funny.
I do like that they have a lot of Latin names though. I love it. Nero Augustus. What a name.
Yeah, I mean, every Nero in real history was just a stand-up guy.
Yeah, I'm sure that's why they gave a stand-up guy like Nero Augustus that name.
Exactly.
Pierce knew what he was doing.
Yeah, everyone's favorite Roman emperor who would never do anything wrong. But anyways, Severo empties the stables and actually steals 6 of the 7 remaining horses, and then also reveals, once again, Severo coming in clutch, that he stole the standard.
Yeah.
And the 3 goats right away, howling in the night, and they've got the Minerva cook and the Minerva standard in hand. They really made off like bandits in this chapter.
Yeah, they kind of went crazy. And obviously, now Minerva doesn't have a standard. They need some form of counterattack, except they don't even know what to do. Their whole keep is just in shambles right now.
Yeah, I think that it's very interesting to me that when their standard is captured and so much happens, they're still in the game. Like they can get the standard back. Um,
Yeah. As long as they
it's
don't get touched by it, or as long as
yeah,
they don't get touched by the House Mars standard, because then they're slaves. I mean, they can choose to disobey, but then they become shamed, and that's like a whole different thing.
yeah. So it's interesting that no matter what happens, there's still that chance of redemption of getting it back. Like even if there's just one House Minerva person out there who hasn't been branded a slave, they can still make that comeback. There's never going to be a complete loss unless there's a complete loss, which
Yeah.
I think that's a really cool sort of detail that they left in there, that maybe some people would choose to surrender if things were looking bad, but you don't necessarily have to. You're still in the game.
Yeah. I wonder if that will happen in the book at all. Truly.
Yeah. Surely not, right?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, that's because you haven't read the books.
I don't know how to read. That's why I listen to audiobooks.
That's why these outlines are so all over the place. You can't read.
No, they're all over the place because I'm a little insane.
No,
I might be
these
Severo.
these outlines are always very good. I'm just joking with you.
I
But
I am tweaking sometimes, as you can see with the parentheses around a lot of the points.
yeah, Richard has it written and has a lot of this outline written with parentheses that say, "Don't say this out loud."
Yeah, I be tweaking sometimes when I'm writing these.
Yeah. So that brings us to chapter 27, The House of Rage. What a metal title.
Dude, don't even talk to me about metal titles, alright? You've never been to a metal concert.
And I probably never will be.
Yeah, if you were coming home this weekend, you'd be getting kidnapped to the plot in you. But you're a scumbag.
Yeah, sadly, I'll be home on Tuesday instead of this weekend.
Unbelievable.
I know. Darrow
Whatever.
rides a pristine horse, which I think that later on, either in this chapter or the next, or maybe the one after that, we'll get into like the name of the horse because he does name it.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah. It's the final line of the last chapter we're covering is the name of his horse, which he does not choose. It's named by his house members
that's
for actions taken.
yeah, but he's holding the Minerva standard, which signals to everyone he's the top dog, he's the one in charge.
Yeah, we as they go back to House Mars Castle, they meet up with Mustang real quick. We love Mustang. And she has taken Mars, like she's taken the castle. She's pissed off at Titus's. We're gonna go with behavior. We're gonna say that
Yeah,
because he did some evil shit and he is a bastard for that. And as they're meeting, it's like Darrow and Cassius and Roke are like the three people that meet up with Mustang, and she's got like her troops behind her, right?
yeah,
And of course, Severo, goblin that he is, comes up from behind the soldiers and just starts ripping into them, howling like crazy. Because that's what he does at this point.
yeah.
He's just a silly little guy. And the proctors come down to watch, and there's just a big ass battle. Mustang's largest soldier, one of my favorites, Pax Au Telemanus. He just starts screaming his name during this fight. That's all he does while he's fighting. He just screams, Pax Au Telemanus, and he goes to take on Darrow, and he kind of seems like an idiot during this, but he's not. He's a smart boy. I promise.
Yeah. Richard, Severo, do you think he's bald?
Severo is not bald. Severo has a mohawk. Severo is metal as fuck.
I. But how do you know he's got the wolf hat, the wolf pelt on? Do we know that he's
Okay,
not
in
bald?
in this book he could be bald, but we know that in later books he has a mohawk. Even in
I
like
see.
the second trilogy, he has a mohawk, and we also find out that he's metal as fuck in the second trilogy because he listens to obsidian music called cacophony, which is just a ton of sound. And I feel like that's the closest thing to metal in the Red Rising universe.
Like ancient Norse heavy metal.
Oh my god, don't even talk to me about Norse heavy metal, bro. There's a song called The Poetic Edda, and shit's kind of crazy.
Yeah. So, do you think that the wolf pelt gets stuck on the like the mohawk is just sticking up, and the wolf pelt is kind of like laying on top of the mohawk?
I think so. I
Yeah,
don't know.
like it,
It's
like
never.
there's
They
a
don't go
few
into
inches where
detail.
there's a few inches between the top of his head and the wolf pelt.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Like it's just
The-
some padding when he's got the
yeah,
pelt on.
yeah. And do you think that he has to wash his hair, like wash all of the wolf meat out of his hair when he's done?
Probably. I don't know. Well, I mean,
Sorry,
during the
I'm just
institute. No, no, no. I get it. During the institute, he does, but once they get out, he keeps the wolf pelt because he's fucking like that. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously, like the whole unit of Darrow's people, like his close ups, all wear wolf pelts, and they're crazy, and I love them. But they're all
Yeah,
like cured. They're all safe to wear. There's no more chunks because they've been wearing. I mean, they wear these things for 15 years after the institute.
yeah.
They're good.
Sorry for that line of questioning. I just felt like I had to fuck with you a little bit.
Nah, you're good. I had to scramble a bit there, but that's all
Yeah,
right.
I just wanted to hear your responses to my very thought provoking questions. But yeah,
Right.
Darrow he fights off a few of the rank and file troops and packs um, at once, getting brought into a strong and merciless bear hug. Darrow feels consciousness fading, and he kind of knees Pax in the nuts a few times, which wins the battle for House
Okay,
Mars.
okay. He does not kind of. He's in the air being held by Pax, and he thinks as he's like falling unconscious, he's like, I got one move I can make, and just slams it. And he's like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then Pax falls unconscious. That's how the battle
Yeah,
is won because
Pa-
Pax is asleep.
hacks out Telemanus, gets hit in his Telemanuses, and he goes
Okay.
down. Darrow, he takes 11 slaves after this battle, which is just crazy. And Mustang holds the castle with 6 troops. But
Yeah.
I'm surprised at this point that Darrow's very much, he's playing by the rules of the game, and he's taking these slaves, which I know is the only way he perceives that he can win at this point because those are the rules that are laid out for him. But what do you think about like the morality of him turning these golds into slaves after coming from the background that he's from?
Obviously, it's very fucked up, and he even observes it himself as like kind of like, what am I doing? Like this is
Hmm.
evil, and he has a moment even I think it's in this chapter where he says like I'm almost having fun now. Like I this feels wrong, but then he keeps doing it anyways because he's Darrow and he's got to move forward. I mean, I'm not an ends justify the means type of guy, but
Yeah,
Darrow is, and that works for him.
yeah. Darrow, he kind of has this conqueror mindset developing, and his sort of brushes with power. He likes it. He really likes the power.
Oh, he quite literally gets drunk on his own myth. Once like the myth of the Reaper starts spreading, it's insane, and I love it.
Yeah, it just goes into the idea of like how is this changing him for better or for worse? And I feel like at this point in the story, the Institute is definitely changing him for the worse in this section.
Yeah, there's some long-lasting effects too on his personality. It's a very interesting development in his character, and I think that it is important to talk about for sure. And I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. Richard, you want to take us into our next point?
Yes, thank you for highlighting it. That's wonderful. I see it. Cassius lies in wait to give the Minerva Standard to Ceres, just in case something goes wrong, as Darrow, Roke, and Antonia go to negotiate with Mustang.
Things don't go exactly as they expected. Yeah, Antonia's she's kind of evil. She's not great. She also really she downplays Titus's actions as just being a part of the game. Like how how bad do you have to be to defend someone that awful? Titus is obviously still the worst person around, but Antonia is basically out here defending him, and it's just I don't know. I hate that so much.
Yeah, yeah. Antonia is fucking evil, but she really like it works well with the character that she is,
Hmm.
but it doesn't make it any better. Like it's the discussion of like a well written versus a well liked character. She is well written, don't get me wrong, but I hate her so much. She's so evil. She's such an awful person that
Yeah. Yeah,
I
same
can't
thing.
say that I enjoy her as a character because of how bad she is as a person.
Yeah, she's not quite, in my mind, she's not quite among the ranks of like Nero Augustus or even Titus, obviously, because Titus is definitely far, far worse by multiple magnitudes. But like you said, it goes into that concept of such a well-written character to the point where you hate them because that's what you're supposed to hate Antonia.
Yeah. It's kind of
Yeah.
like the villain in the second trilogy. Like, if we're talking in terms of how well written this character is, he is in the top two characters,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But if I'm talking well liked, he's very low on the list. And there
Yeah.
are villains that I like more than him. Like it's crazy, but
Yeah.
he's a bastard.
Absolutely. Taro tells her to leave, and she tells him that he needs to understand that there needs to be limits to his brutality. She demands that she keeps the series students or that she can have Titus, but Darrow doesn't allow that. There's a really good quote here.
Yeah, Darrow kind of pissed off that a gold brow, which Darrow, that's your woman. Shut up. But Darrow's pissed that like a gold would talk down to him like that, so he says, "This is a bit of a content warning again with these chapters. This is horrible." But the quote is, "If Titus raped a little girl who happened to be a red, how would you feel?" And Mustang just kind of shuts up. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of a crazy, not crazy question, but it's very, in terms of their society, it's very out there as a concept of like, do you even give a shit?
Yeah, I mean, most of the golds don't even see the other colors, especially the reds. They don't see them as people. They just see them as tools, as a resource. They don't really look at them as having humanity, as having agency. They're just a means for the golds to keep their lavish and over the top lifestyles.
Yeah, it's it's a really fucked up way of looking at everything, and that is how the Golds be doing it.
Yeah, and I think that just the fact that Mustang is kind of quiet for a minute here, it really shows that Mustang is a little different from the rest of the Golds, and that maybe she has some more empathy, some more compassion. We talked about it earlier, but she might be one of the Golds who ends up realizing, hey, this is not at all how things should be run. This is fucked up.
Yeah, which is crazy considering everything else about her character, as we will learn. But
Yeah.
what does Mustang tell them about before they end their negotiations, Aaron? What do they find out?
Mustang tells them of a warlord called the Jackal, and he is stronger, crueler, and smarter than the Reaper of Mars. Yeah. So we get this introduction
Okay.
to the Jackal, who is this very sort of almost a mythical figure at this point, kind of like Darrow would be to some of the other houses. You've got the Jackal, who's strong and cruel. You have the Reaper, who's also strong and cruel. It's almost like these opposing myths are starting to clash with one another.
Hell yeah, they are. Do you remember when we were talking about Fallout lore and we were talking about the Raider factions? And
Yeah,
one of them was called the Jackals. And I
yeah.
remember I asked you some stuff. This was why. Because of the fucking
Oh,
Jackal. I love the Jackal. He's a villain, obviously. He is our main villain for the rest of this book. And honestly, he's pretty major for the rest of the first trilogy.
hmm.
But I love the Jackal. He's such a like that first interaction with him still gives me goosebumps to think about. It's insane.
Hell yeah. That actually kind of gives me an idea. Maybe our next Fallout lore will be about some of the Raider factions, specifically like the Jackals. And there's a few groups that came out of, I believe it was Vault 13, which one of them became the NCR, and then some
It
of
was
the
like the
groups
cons,
became
the
the
Jackals,
Cons, the
and
Jackals, and then there's one more. I can't remember their name though. Is it the
yeah,
Scorpions?
no,
No,
I don't
I don't.
remember what it
Oh, the
was.
Vipers. The Vipers.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But so we need to get back on Fallout lore, buddy.
we do. We do. I just have been at a loss of what we can talk about, but this might be a good topic, so I'm gonna keep that one in the back pocket. And if you
Yeah,
like our Fallout lore, stay tuned because it sounds like we have some ideas brewing for that. And then we get into kind of a relatively short chapter for these few, chapter 28, which is My Brother. Now that's
it's a very interesting title.
it
Because
is.
Aaron, what do you think it's about when we go into this?
Well, it obviously must be about how Darrow and Cassius are just so close that they call each other brother.
Yeah, I wish, but unfortunately, it's not.
Yeah,
Darrow and his tribe, his bigger tribe, his united tribe, they share a feast cooked by the Minervan slave that they took, and they're living it up. They she's a good cook, and most of Darrow's tribe, like besides the his like close friends that we know, like Severo, Cassius, Roke. I'm not listing them all, but like that whole group. Obviously, they've been eating decent because they had matches. All of Titus's and Antonio's members, they didn't. So this is the first cooked meal they're having since getting into the institute after like a good month. So good for them.
it's pretty incredible that when you have people that are hungry or have been going through a tough time, just giving them some stability and good food on the table, it does a lot to win their loyalty, I think. And I think that Darrow really kind of solidifies the allegiance of a lot of the Antonia and Titus former groupies by having the Minervan slave and cooking them up all of this food.
Yeah, they talk about their next move around this absolutely wonderful feast, and they say, "Hey, we need to set up a firm set of laws, and also they need to figure out what to do with Titus. He's been chained up in the basement ever since Mustang took the castle, and they don't know what to do, but they think that death is a pretty fitting sentence, and I agree.
Yeah, I'm not typically one to actually not even not typically. I don't support the death penalty in real life, but um, Titus, he deserves to go after everything he's done. He's a fictional character, so I feel more comfortable making that judgment on him as a reader of fiction than I would in
Yeah,
real life. But yeah, I think that Titus, the death sentence, I don't really have any problems with that.
I think the way it's done is very cruel and kind of insane, obviously, but that's next chapter. He uh
Yeah,
yeah, so
and Richard,
they
let me ask you though,
oh,
before
what
we
do you
move on to
got?
the next point. Is any punishment really enough for Titus after everything he's done?
I feel like hmm. Hmm. God damn it, Mortal Quandaries, bro.
I know. Could really anything be done to this monster to adequately punish him for all of the horrible things that he's done? Like the
Well,
amount of lives that he's absolutely ruined and traumatized, it's probably at least a dozen at this point.
I would say it's over a dozen because there are a few series people that he didn't take as slaves because the Medbots took them first because they almost died.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that's crazy. I think that normally just life in prison would be great for stuff, but the problem is the person's got to feel guilty for it to work. It depends on their own perspective. Titus, he doesn't feel guilty about it, as we
Yeah.
learn later this chapter. And that's the problem with just putting him in prison or, giving him like lashings or whatever the fuck else like medieval punishment they would do. They really don't have another choice because he doesn't feel bad,
hmm
so they only have the one choice.
Yeah, and if they keep him in prison at the end of the institute, he won't face anything, right?
You
Like
know,
he'll
he
just get
he
out.
he just goes into society. No one faces any retribution for their crimes in this shit, which is crazy because of one, Darrow pulls some shit. Like I love
Yeah.
Darrow, but oh my god, the war crimes this man pulls every book is insane.
The
And
Geneva
then
Convention sees Darrow and sheds a tear.
Darrow thinks that the Geneva suggestions. All right, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Jackal does some evil stuff. He doesn't face punishment for really anything he does, even after the Institute, which is crazy.
I mean, get together the most cruel Nepo babies that you can find in the entire galaxy and just give them free reign to commit war crimes against each other and then let them out with complete immunity. You're creating a society of complete sociopaths.
Yeah, it's when you think about a lot of the villains that we get later on, um, when you think of the Institute being their root cause for how they were, it really does kind of it humanizes a lot of them because you think they all went through shit similar to this and
hmm
came out having their certain philosophies on stuff. It really does make for an interesting villains a lot of the times for the gold villains at least. There are
Yeah,
other colors of villain though.
for sure. And you think about like I'm sure that their indoctrination into this lifestyle of being cruel and horrible started pretty much from birth because they were likely raised by people who went through the same sort of system that that they're going through right now. They if they had Peerless scarred as parents, then their parents went through the institute and they're the same pieces of garbage that their kids are going to turn out to be.
Yeah,
And I just
generational
wonder,
trauma is a bitch.
it really is. And I just wonder if there's any way for these people to come out of the Institute with their souls intact. Like, I don't think that there's really a way to fully come out without at least being partially a monster.
I would say that the closest person to being intact would be Mustang at the end of the Institute. I don't know if you agree with me on this one, but Mustang for sure would be the only one that I would consider to be intact after everything. And even then, that's kind of a stretch.
Yeah, she's definitely a little bit more together and has a stronger sense of morals after the Institute than a lot of these other characters do. But I don't want to get into that too much because we have that's like later books, right? So,
True, yeah. Well, like,
but
once
yeah,
we get to the end of this book, we can at least talk about her family
yes,
dichotomy or
yeah,
dynamic. That's the word.
absolutely. And um, where were we in our outline here? Sorry, I went
Ah,
off onto a
I
tangent
got it.
there.
I got it. Titus
Okay.
and Darrow have a little exchange in the. Nope. I fucking lied. Darrow thinks it should be up to Cassius to decide what to do with Titus, but Roke argues that it's up to Darrow because he's the leader. He's made himself the leader. He has to actually take charge. He has to take responsibility, and he has to put down his mad dog. Unfortunately, Darrow doesn't think that way. He knows that the House Mars members won't respect Cassius after the whole pissing incident, but he promised Cassius that he would let him end Titus. This is where I can stop lying. This is where Titus and Darrow have a little exchange in the basement, and Darrow just kind of says, "Hey, I'm the fucking leader now. Deal with it."
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of a scene in The Penguin, which, if you haven't checked out The
I haven't
Penguin,
watched it yet. I'll get there. Shut
what the
up.
hell are you doing, man? What the hell are you doing with your time? Going to work?
Yes, actually, I am. But I will watch The Penguin. I'm logged into your HBO, so I kind of have to.
Yeah, but there's a really good scene between Sophia Falcone and Sophia Gigante. Sorry, that's my bad. Put some respect on her name. And the underboss of the crime family. That sort of reminds me of this moment, which I don't want to really spoil it too much, but it does remind me of that scene. If you know, you know.
Of course, and I don't know because I'm clueless.
Yeah. But Titus, he calls Vixus and his other troops soulless bastards. And Darrow reminds him that he's literally a piece of garbage who has committed pretty terrible crimes against humanity. So, yeah, that's. I don't think that Titus really takes that to heart. I think that Titus
No,
doesn't give a fuck.
Titus has this very childish seeming reaction, and he tells Darrow that the Golds did it first, which is
Yeah,
such like a well, you did it first. Shut up. You're not fucking five. But
yeah,
what he says is that quote unquote he took and raped quote unquote her. He also reveals that after they kept doing it and then killed whoever her is, he killed the another quote bloody damn monsters. And now Darrow knows, we know, bloody damn, Aaron, who uses that slang?
the Reds.
Only the Reds. Kind of crazy that
Yeah,
a Goldbrow would say that, right?
yeah. I mean, of true gold would never, ever,
Never
ever, ever say
so
that.
low.
Yeah,
And Aaron, what does this mean for Titus?
this means that Titus must be a red, and Darrow kind of realizes that, oh shit, I'm not the only one that the Sons of Ares put here.
Yeah, I mean, we know that they alluded to it earlier, but
Yeah,
we did not know that fucking Titus was going to be involved, or that it was going to be Titus. And
yeah,
this is why the chapter is called My Brother.
yeah. It is,
If,
and
yeah,
I mean, they told Darrow that there had been failed attempts beforehand, which kind of makes us think that Darrow would have been the only one right now to be a red within the system. And this is just such a big upset to him. And do you think it's making him think at all? Like, could there be other Reds among me?
it certainly should make him think that way, but he really doesn't consider it.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised that that wasn't a bigger point for him. Maybe it's just because Pierce Brown didn't want that to be a bigger point. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know.
I think it
But
would have been too much to handle, and like this was his first book. It's a very dystopian young adult type book, this first
yeah,
one in 2014, which is, as we said last week, like that's that fucking Hunger Games craze period where
yeah,
everything was trying to be Hunger Games, and thank God he changed direction after the first book, because if it was
yeah,
just similar shit 24/7, I don't think that the series would have succeeded.
yeah. I don't think so either. But as a reader, it does make me really wonder how many of these Reds that work for the Sons of Ares are hiding in plain sight among the golds. Like, are there people who've made it all the way through the Institute that are essentially just keeping up the facade? Like, we don't really know at this point. We won't know for a long time, but it's something to think
Spoiler
about.
alert, I know.
Yeah, you know,
I
you
know
know
everything.
everything. Yeah,
Damn
you're
straight.
omniscient at this point. You're Pierce Brown in this situation.
I am, dude. I wish I could come up with peak ideas like Pierce Brown.
Get on it. Start writing.
Yeah, let me just write a banger 7-book sci-fi series and then decide, you know what? I'm going to switch to dark fantasy afterwards and then probably write another couple of bangers.
You've got it, I believe.
I do not have his creativity or his world building skills. I wish.
I wish I had those kind of skills. That would be the ultimate career, I think, would be telling stories like that. I just, such a respect.
The only stories I think are better, like I think Pierce Brown is a fantastic writer. I think purely in terms of world building though, Brandon Sanderson has him beat because this motherfucker has an entire unit, like it's the MCU basically, but for
Yeah,
books. It's crazy. Read the Cosmere, people. Read the Cosmere.
yeah. I mean, I think that one of the most important aspects of creating a realistic world is having a history there that is very clear. Like, I don't know. I think that when a world feels lived in and not just shiny and brand new, like it's come straight out of your mind, there's multiple layers of civilization built on top of each other, just like our real world. That's when world building really shines. And I think that this book does that really well. You get the history of when Luna took over Earth, and there's all of these things that are alluded to in the past of this world that make it feel more realistic, and I love that.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting too the way that like each color has a culture based off like current or past cultures. Like the Obsidians are Vikings, the Reds are the Irish, the Golds are the fucking Brits, obviously because they're conquerors.
Yeah,
Even though, of course, they have all their pros as like being, they've got like the very Greek and Roman style of heraldry. It's still very much like they talk in British accents, bro. Okay, that's all I gotta
yeah,
say.
yeah. They're based on the British with little hints of Roman and Greek like thrown in there for their physical appearances. Really, the Roman and the Greek is just like aesthetics, and then their actual personalities um and like the way they operate is very British Empire, like peak of sun never sets on the British Empire type of deal. Which
I mean, the
so,
sun never sets on the society.
I mean, yeah, kind of because they do they control the sun itself, basically.
Oh, they can move planets.
What?
I don't they can move planets. What do you mean what? They have giant gravity generator things that can move shit. So like Mercury isn't so close to the sun anymore. Venus is in a point where the atmosphere isn't just toxic. It's insane. They mention it once early on and I didn't jot it down because it was already a long episode, but yeah, they can
Yeah,
move planets and moons and shit.
I forgot about that detail. That's fucking crazy. Yeah, they have the literal power to move planets. Damn.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Minor lore drop.
Sorry, I'm a little stunned by that. Yeah. All right. Well, let's let's before I get too off topic with that shit, let's move on to chapter 29, Unity, which is the last chapter that we're going to be covering today. Richard, you want to take us off?
Oh, of course. You know, as we remember, Dancer had some issues with the whole carving process. He was worried that Darrow might become a little crazy, a little evil, and we find out why. It's because of people like Titus. Potentially people like Titus. I mean, we only know about him, but who knows? Maybe everyone in the Institute's a red.
Yeah.
But they're not. I'm lying through my teeth, obviously. But Darrow decides that Titus, he must be put down like a mad dog. And that's so real because he's such a fucking evil creature and he deserves it.
Yeah.
Frankly.
Yeah. I mean, Titus, this is very much his farewell. Not that anyone's going to miss him. I certainly won't. But Darrow pulls him into the main square in front of the house and a few of the proctors and
Yeah,
sentences Titus to death.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna make it very obvious. Titus is not making it past chapter 29 Unity. Alright? He's fucking dead soon. And
Yeah.
so he sentences Titus to death, right? And Titus challenges Darrow to a duel by the sword. No curved blades allowed, which obviously we know Darrow has his signature reaping scythe because he's the Reaper of Mars after all.
Yeah.
And what does Darrow do after this?
Well, Darrow decides to choose a champion and he picks the best fighter he can think of. And also someone who has the reason to tear Titus into bits and pieces.
And who might
Cassius
that be?
Cassius Au Bologna, the future important person. I was about to say his title, but yeah, he's. We already know that Cassius wants to be the one to kill Titus because he still believes that he killed Julian, which really
And Darrow loves feeding that delusion. He's just like, yeah, he killed your brother, idiot. You should kill him now, please.
yeah, Darrow is at this point he's becoming a really skilled manipulator and bending the truth to get people to do what he wants them to do, which I think is a really interesting skill for him to be developing.
I love it when Darrow gaslights gatekeeps and girl bosses, alright? The three G's.
The triple G.
Triple G for my goat. Yeah.
Ooh, wait, fourth G, goat, quadruple G.
Quadruple
Okay,
G. We're done.
yeah, we're done here. But Darrow, um, he ends up burying Titus
Oh
out
wait,
in a river.
we gotta scrub that, roll it back real quick. We got one more
Did
before
I
that.
miss something? That's my bad. That's my bad.
Yeah.
All right. Why don't you take it away because you know the details a little bit better than I do of what happens during the duel and everything.
Yeah, it's not very detailed, unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because, as you know, Pierce writes some banger duels later on. But this one, he really just kind of explains that Cassius takes it very slow, taking like he hits Titus quite a few times, and every time he hits him, he just repeats like you killed Julian, and it takes a while for him to beat him. Not because Titus is a particularly skilled opponent, but because Cassius wants to make him suffer for killing his brother. But he
Yeah,
didn't do that.
Cassius is essentially playing with his food a little bit, I guess you could say.
that that is a way of putting it, and I think that's a pretty good way to put it. I mean, we already know he's a pretty skilled duelist. He wants to be an Olympic knight someday. And the way to
Mhm.
become an Olympic knight is either by doing something absolutely insane for the sovereign or by winning duels, winning duels, winning duels until you either duel a current knight or you duel someone over an empty knight's title. And
Yeah,
so he's been training as a duelist pretty much his entire life, and he wins. Obviously, he kills Cassie, or he kills. Wow, sorry, my goat would never die. He kills Titus brutally,
hmm
and everyone. It's very silent in the town square, the castle square, because that really isn't justice. I mean, even the people who don't care about the whole Julian thing, I think it's just wrong.
Yeah, I mean, one of the rules that was set out is don't kill anyone. And that was just broken, which, let's be honest, Titus, he broke that rule already. Or at least, he probably broke that rule. We know that a few people got medvaced out, so we're not quite sure. But yeah, Darrow ends up then burying Titus at a riverbank, and he wants to make it to the Vale of the Reds faster, which that's why he decides to just bury Titus at the riverbank. And I want to go back to the last point actually before we move on, because
Yeah.
I'm just imagining how emotional that scene was if we saw it told in a visual medium with him striking every single time saying you killed Julian. I'm just imagining that's also probably part of the reason why everyone is so silent.
Yeah, I think, and I he doesn't do this until the second trilogy. It's unfortunate, and we still don't get what I want. But I think that Cassius POV would have been incredible during this scene.
Hmm.
And I'm so pissed that we don't get Cassius POVs at all in the second trilogy, because there are some scenes that I think would have gone better from his perspective than Darrow's or than other characters. But ultimately, it's still good.
Yeah. And Darrow, he's also earned 3 out of the 5 bars that he needs to be the Primus of House Mars. And Cassius, he's earned 1. So it's very clear who's going to end up becoming the Primus at this point.
Yeah. They know that Darrow takes up guard duty because he's just unsettled by everything that's happened. I mean, he just sentenced a red man to death and then had a gold carry out the sentence, which obviously, like, that that's crazy. This is insanity at this point in the book. But he takes his guard shift and someone comes down and talks to Darrow. It's our boy Fitchner.
Yeah, and Fitchner, he questions, or Darrow questions him for how could he allow Titus to do everything he did between the assaults and or the like brutality, everything. Fitchner then turns it back on Darrow and is like, "Why? Why shouldn't they have stopped you from killing a prime legate, a leader in Iron Reigns? Like, what? Why shouldn't we have stopped you from doing that? Like, it's just
Yeah,
Fitchner very much turns it back on him. Like, what the
because
hell do
yeah,
you have to complain about when you're doing shit too?"
yeah, like he killed Titus or had
Uh,
Titus killed, whatever. Titus was literally a prime candidate when you think about like straight up warfare. He's this huge dude built from the ground up in muscle. He would have been a perfect leader in Iron Reigns, as Fitchner says, which are these things. They fall in pods from the sky as orbital bombardment, and then they come out of the pods and just start killing everyone around them because they're insane.
yeah,
Iron Reigns are fucking cool. They're metal as hell, and we see like 4 of them in the series, and they're all great.
they are. And Fitchner also explains y'all can't learn war without the Institute, which um, I don't know. I guess you can't learn gold warfare without the Institute. You could probably you
Well,
could
yeah.
learn warfare without the Institute, but
His
I
whole
wondered.
point, and I should have clarified this, his whole point is that they can't learn it and take as much away from it because in here, they can kind of make mistakes without it costing them their lives most of the time.
Yeah, they're essentially living through a war that's in a little bit more of a controlled environment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because they got like the proctors and the medbots, like kind of checking on stuff, but also not really.
yeah. And Fitchner, he kind of teases Darrow about killing Julian, and Darrow sustains the lie, even though he knows Fitchner knows the truth, as do the other proctors. But Darrow kind of, I think that he feels the need at this point to keep the lie up in his own mind so that nothing slips to Cassius, or that he wants the reality of the situation to be the way others are perceiving it. He doesn't want to be
Yeah,
the one who killed Julian, even though he is.
Yeah, he wants to be Cassius's friend who allowed for Cassius to get his revenge on the savage and evil Titus. Or yeah,
Yeah. And that's the kind of loyalty from Cassius that Darrow really needs is I was just I was just allowed to get revenge for my brother's death. I just avenged my brother. Like this is and Darrow is the man who made that happen. And as long as Cassius believes that, I think that that's he'll be loyal to Darrow.
yeah, that that's it. That's really what it is that keeps Cassius and Darrow's like relationship there. It keeps Darrow as the leader because we know that
Mhm.
everyone obviously wants to lead, but most of them don't have the position to do anything about it. Cassius has the position. He just doesn't feel the need to because his leader is giving him everything he wants.
Yeah. Not only that, but Cassius also has the right name to be a leader. He has that lineage that is supposed to put him leagues above all of the other golds.
Yeah, but whatever. I mean, it's it's Darrow. He deserves it.
It is, yeah. Fitchner kind of calls him out, calls Darrow out, and calls him an animal, likening him to the wolves of the Mars wilderness, which again kind of reminds me of Severo becoming this wolf-like figure who's loyal to Darrow. So there's a lot of Mars wolf imagery in these books and a lot of connections with Darrow with it all.
Yeah. And on the flip side, Darrow observes and kind of makes a comment that Fitchner is very similar to Severo. You know, they make their all of their snide remarks, their insults. You know, they're always very crass, but it's a facade. I mean, we can tell
Yeah,
with Severo it's a facade. He obviously is a very caring person. Like he goes in and he saves Darrow and Cassius without really having much of a reason to do so yet. But
yeah.
like I understand he's a very loyal person, and yes, that's obviously there. But he Darrow hadn't done much to earn that loyalty, from what I see.
Yeah, you have these two very crude people who sort of they've almost made part of their power the fact that people underestimate them.
Yeah, and I think it's a very interesting comparison between the two.
Yeah, for sure. And Darrow then, in return, calls Fitchner out for not acting like most golds do. And Fitchner gets a little bit insecure about that and lashes out. So clearly, Fitchner has been gone through this before. I feel like the way that he reacts and in lashing out at Darrow's call out of him not acting like most golds, he might have been called that for a lot of his life. Maybe people were like, you don't act elevated enough. You're not like the rest of us." And I think that's another really interesting point that Fitchner is sort of in his own category amongst the golds. He's not like the others.
Yeah, he's a peerless, but he's really not respected like most other peerless until after this book. But that's because he's Darrow's proctor that he gets the respect he earns.
Yeah, he's very much shit on in this point of his story. He's looked down upon. But yeah,
Yeah,
Darrow he
which
earned some
sucks.
horses.
I love
Yeah, yeah.
Fitchner. I love Fitchner. I'm sorry, I do.
I know Fitchner. He's a good character. I like him a lot. But
Yeah.
Darrow earned some horses, some weapons, some matches, and that's because he captured the Minerva Standard, and the bounty Severo passed it along to him because technically Severo is the one who captured the Minerva Standard, yada yada. But Darrow's the leader, so Severo doesn't really waste any time sort of giving up the goods to the group. Yeah, Darrow. This is where he really starts to get suspicious. Like, who's the jackal? And Fitchner, yeah, he gives us a pretty big reveal. What do you know about the jackal, Richard?
What do I know about? Well, more than you, but I know that the Jackal is Mr. Nero Al Augustus's son. So, kind of crazy that we've got this cruel dictator warlord doing some crazy shit out. outwitting and out warlording. Yep, out warlording Darrow, and he's Darrow's arch enemy's son. I
Yeah,
mean, that's insane.
we're adding out warlording into the vocabulary.
Oh,
I
for
like
sure.
that one. I like that one.
Well, I'd
But
say it's
yeah,
fair.
yeah, I think so. But I don't know. For the jackal, I don't think the apple falls very far from the tree.
I don't even think the apple fully fell at this point. I mean,
it,
he is
the stem is still
so
on the fucking tree.
yeah. He like we obviously won't meet him for another few chapters, but when we do, the jackal is a terrifying creature, and calling him the jackal, like giving him a more unrefined name, is so perfect because he really is just very like caged animal type character, you know?
Yeah, like a feral animal for sure. No, I agree with that. And as we sort of alluded to earlier, Darrow's horse gets named. And Richard, what name do the people give to Darrow's horse?
Darrow's tribe members call his horse Quietus, which means the final stroke, and that is given in mockery of Titus's death, execution, whatever you want to
Last
call
duel,
that.
whatever. Yeah,
Um, like Darrow's tribe, they're loyal, but they're not loyal because they like Darrow or anything. They're loyal because they just saw the guy order the execution of another dude, have Cassius do it for him, and like they're more scared, I guess.
yeah. Best not get on his bad side.
I would be terrified to be on Darrow's bad side. Like I'm tall, but Darrow would be a solid like foot and a half taller than me, and also he's just like a giant. He's just built out of muscle.
Listen, I think you could be 10 feet tall, and Darrow would still kill you. Like, there's no Darrow's just that guy. There's
I
no
could
getting
be
around him.
the strongest obsidian ever, and it wouldn't matter. Wouldn't matter. Darrow would beat my ass.
Absolutely, he's
Darrow
he's just that
does
guy.
beat. Darrow does beat quite a few obsidians' asses, though.
Yeah, and I think that that's a good place for us to end that chapter. Richard, do you have any final thoughts or anything before we start wrapping up?
Well, this was probably my favorite set of chapters to do so far. I think that just everything that happens in this section of the book is it's crazy. Like you get the reveal of Mustang. She's a great character. We love Mustang. You get them taking the standard and the cook, them finding out about the jackal as they negotiate with Mustang. The reveal that Titus is a red is crazy, and then it ends the chapter that Titus fucking dies. What the fuck?
Yeah, it's crazy. I have a question for you before we wrap it up.
Yeah, what do you got?
If you were one of the proctors, would you be helping your kids under the table?
Which proctor? I guess
If
it
you
does
were,
matter.
let's just say you were just a proctor, like there's a different institute. You're one of the proctors at the institute. Let's say you're just a house series proctor. Doesn't For a completely different group of people. Are you going to be helping your
Yes,
house?
more than Fitchner does at least, because Fitchner, we know he's very laid back. He doesn't really do much to help. He only does stuff when he absolutely has to, seemingly. But he does also supply them with some information, and I feel like that is also an
Information is
important
power.
part. Like I think I would probably do that. I also don't think that I would be a proctor because like you still got to be a pretty cruel, peerless Scard to get that position.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. What about you?
No,
Same Stitch.
I would be helping them at every single turn. I would be like sneaking them meds and weapons and shit. I would be cheating for sure.
You'd be giving them razors and shit.
Yeah, I would they would have every advantage. I mean,
Give them fucking pulse armor so that they can wipe the floor with everyone in 2 days and be done with it.
exactly. Grav boots, a map of the whole place. Like my group is winning. I don't care.
Right, right. I don't think that's allowed, though. I mean,
Well,
that's not
is
to say that people don't get ahead with technology they're not supposed to have.
I'm kind of a competitive person when it comes to things like this. Um, so
Fair enough.
yeah, I'd be helping him. That's all I
I
can say.
I would just hit the scheme button and assassinate the other proctors and be done with
Oh
it.
my, I know that you would.
Yeah, I love my scheme button in Crusader Kings. Beautiful.
Uh, we gotta hop back on soon. But
Yeah,
anyways, Richard, do you want to let people know how they can get involved in the conversation? Because we want to hear from y'all.
yeah. And as per usual, this is where I shine. Totally. First
Yep.
off, we just want to say thank you for listening. Obviously, me and Aaron absolutely love yapping about Red Rising. I mean, this is we're consistently keeping up with it, which is great, and we're making some headway through the book. I mean, we're at more than half, I think, throughout the book, which is great.
Yeah.
But on to the contact information. First off, we have our email, which is radioactive at thelorehounds.com. We have a channel set up for Radioactive Ramblings in the Lorehounds Discord server, and you can send us a message, chat about the show, really whatever. We keep an eye on it. You also could contact us through the contact form or leave us a voicemail at thelorehounds.com. We also now have a Blue Sky account at Radioactive141, and we'd appreciate a rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever other service you might use to listen to us. It helps other people find us and just kind of grows the community.
Yeah. And if you want to follow all of the Lorehounds affiliates on Blue Sky, the Lorehounds have set up a list so that all you have to do is click one button and you're automatically going to be following all of the relevant Lorehounds accounts, which is awesome. So we're on that now, and yeah, it makes it easy. But anyways, like Richard said, thank you guys so much for listening. We really appreciate every time you guys tune in. This has been a really fun series for us to do. Very much like this is a passion project for sure. I mean, all of our series are, but this one especially because Red Rising is not the most popular, the most well-known book series. We're definitely just doing this because we think it's a lot of fun and we want to talk about it. And we would really love if you all joined in on the conversation, either through the Discord or through one of the other methods that Richard mentioned. So, but before we let you go, I did just want to give a quick shout out to all of the other affiliates and to our parent podcast, The Lorehounds, who makes all of this possible. They've got a lot of great coverage going on over there with new stuff coming out for Dune Prophecy and just a bunch of other great content. So go check them out or check out some of the affiliates, which include us, We'll Shift Dust, Properly Howard Movie Review. We have the newest affiliate, which is Nevermind the Music. They're really chugging along and doing a great job. Go check them out. The Star Wars Canon Timeline podcast. And of course, last but definitely not least, we have Marilyn Arpukila and Dr. Sarah Brown talking about the Rings of Power over at Rings and Rituals. So check out all of the affiliate feeds. There will be links to all of them in the show notes. And actually, I wanted to give a shout out also to the Severance feed because that's coming back very soon. And I believe they're doing a few re releases of some of their Severance reviews over there. So definitely check those out. And thank you all so much for listening, and we hope to see you in the next episode.